October 15, 2012.
That's why I said Jason Wright. You looked at me like, hey.
You've got 20 seconds.
Read here before, though not too many times. M. Degas teaches art and science at Dufree Intermediate School, Detroit, 1942. He made a line on the blackboard, one bold stroke from right to left, diagonally downward, and stood back to ask, looking as always at no one in particular, "What have I done?" From the back of the room, Freddie shouted, "You've broken a piece of chalk." And Degas did not smile. "What have I done?" he repeated. The most intellectual students looked down to study their desks, except for Gertrude Bimler, who raised her hand before she spoke. "M. Degas, you have created the hypotenuse of an isosceles triangle." Degas mused. Everyone knew that Gertrude could not be incorrect. "It is possible." Louis Warshawski added precisely that you have begun to represent the roof of a barn. I remember that it was exactly 20 minutes past 11, and I thought at worst this would go on another 40 minutes. It was early April. The snow had all but melted on the playgrounds. The elms and maples bordering the cracked walls shivered in the new winds, and I believed that before I knew it, I'd be swaggering to the candy store for a Milky Way. And Degas pursed his lips, and the room stilled until the long hand of the clock moved to 21, as though in complicity with Gertrude, who added confidently, "You've begun to separate the light from the dark." I looked back for help, but now the trees bucked and quaked, and I knew this could go on forever. That's Philip Levine from his collection, What's Work Is. My name is Chad Parento. The man behind the cam is Bill Perot. We are just one fraction of Stone Soup Poetry. The feature for tonight is going to be Mr. Jason Wright. Hopefully he'll be here very, very shortly. We're going to give him a round of applause anyway because it sounds better for the DVD. Hopefully he won't feel too guilty when he's late. We had a couple withdrawals for features this past Monday. It's been very difficult to secure something for some odd reason. Harder to secure than it was for Columbus Day Monday, oddly enough. Jason Wright filled in, and Jason Wright, if you don't know, in addition to being a poet and a past Jeopardy contestant, he was also the editor and creator of Oddball magazine. The link to the journal is actually on his bio on Stone Soup, and also on the Stone Soup website at stonesoup.blogspot.com. So you can link it there. We'll probably link it just one more time after tonight's festivities. So we are looking forward to him, and I'm also looking forward to hearing all of you tonight, new and returning voices alike. For those of you watching on cable TV, either actual TV or streaming access on cctv.org, Stone Soup meets every Monday night from 8 to 10 at the Out of the Blue Art Gallery on 106 Prospect Street. Hop, skip, and 87 jumps away from the Central Square T-Stop. Across from the Whole Foods, parking is iffy if you park in the parking lot, but there are other means. If you look, hopefully we're going to get some better options in the future. The open mic sign-up is at 7:30. The open mic starts, well, right now. We're going to welcome a returning poet from a couple months back. He featured as part of Stone Soup's celebration of Jack Powers' what would have been the late Jack Powers, founder of Stone Soup, what would have been his 75th birthday the entire month of September. And this man who knew Jack and a lot of his cohorts and partners in crime is also here tonight. He featured on the 17th of September. Not content to rest on his laurels, he's here on the open mic back. Let's welcome R. Wayne Nickerson.
Definitely don't need this. Yeats! Never give all the heart. Never give all the heart, beloved. Will hardly seem worth thinking of to passionate women if it seems certain, and they never dream, that it fades out from kiss to kiss to kiss to kiss to kiss. For everyone that's lovely is but a brief, dreamy, kind delight. Oh, never give the heart outright. Oh, never give the heart outright. For they, oh smooth lips can say, have given their hearts up to the play. And who could play it well enough? And who could play it well enough? If deaf and dumb and blind with love, he that made this knows all the cost, for he gave all his heart and lost. Never give all the heart for love. Never. Yeats. One more Yeats.
Oh.
I had this thought a while ago. My darling cannot understand what I have done or what would do in this blind, bitter land. And I grew weary of the sun until my thoughts cleared up again, remembering that the best that I have done was done to make it plain, that every year I have cried at length, my darling understands it all, because it have come into my strength, and words obey my call, and words obey my call. That had she done, so who can say, what would have shaken from the steam? I might have thrown poor words away and been content to live. Words, Yeats. Now from the Road Poets of Lowell. I can find it. Yes, I did find it. Death by Taxi
Oh.
by Gary Mex Glanzer. In New York, you die in taxis. A little yellow death. The honking of crows, black puddles, putrid flapping, only there are no crows. They must be pigeons. Blacking up, they honk convincingly, and the traffic begins to flow and breathe again. You are in his arms, he is loving you alive. You see the light? It's a green light. For God's sake, try to make the damn light. It's flashing and the crow dogs are barking. Caw! And the little park runs. Only there are no dogs. There must be jackals in wiener dog coats. Your debt will make the news. The paper boys are swooning. Extra, extra, extra. You'll never guess who died in a taxi. Stuck in traffic, unable to get even to the closest Starbucks. Only there is no coffee. It must be dead black water. Like an old Doobie Brothers song. Surprising you on the radio. But that's no radio, and the cabbie isn't singing to you. He's singing to his cousin about the Knicks. And earlier, he keeps shouting the chorus. Knick-knack, 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 knick-knock, nook. And he has no idea you are dead. But here's the riddle. Do you tip when you're dead? You can't take it, whatever. Still, it seems a little rude if you don't. One more. Shel Silverstein. The new anniversary book. He's got 12 new ones.
Who is that?
Shel Silverstein.
Sounds so. Never heard of him.
The Giving Tree, writer of...
The Giving Tree, Light in the Attic. Where have you been for the past 60 years, Bill?
Actually, he's one of John Stern's favorite covers.
I know. The little boy and the old man. Said the little boy.
Sometimes I drop the spoon.
Said the old man.
I do that too.
The little boy whispered.
I wet my pants.
I did that too, laughed the little old man. Said the little boy, I often cried. The old man nodded. So do I, so do I, so do I. But worst of all, the little boy, it seems, grown-ups don't pay attention to me at all. And he felt the warmth of a wrinkled old hand. I know what you mean, said the little old man. Thank you.
Sometimes we get original work, sometimes we get a cover band. Either way, it's all good, it's all love. And now we have someone who I know is going to probably present a little bit of both. He's the man responsible for the show airing on public access, not only in Cambridge, but also in Lowell, where he resides. And from there, he travels around documenting poetry where he can, making sure Stone Soup has a show once a week. Let's welcome and thank Bill Perot.
Okay, I'll read a poem from the women's movement. Now, I actually have a collection of her poetry, Erica Young, and she wrote this. Why I Died. She is the woman I follow wherever I enter a room. She has been there, with her hair smelling of lions and tigers, with her dress blacker than octopus ink, with her shoes moving like lizards over the waving wheat of the rug. Sometimes I think of her as my mother, but she died by her own hand before I was born. She drowned in the waves of her own hair. She strangled on Isadora's scarf. She suckled a poisonous snake at her breast, like Cleopatra or Eve. She is no virgin and no Madonna. Her eyelids are purple. She sleeps around. Wherever I go, I meet her lovers. Wherever I go, I hear their stories. Wherever I go, they tell me different versions of her suicide. I sleep with them in gratitude. I sleep with them to make them tell. I sleep with them as punishment or reward. She is the woman I follow. I wear her cast-off clothes. She is my mother, my daughter. She is writing the suicide note. Interesting, huh? Here's a poem about rain. It rained beautifully this morning. Steady, soft droplets splashing. No gleaming, turquoise gray, misty. Wet, a simple, lovely rain falling, dripping over the railing into the little baby puddles. It was nice to drive along, splashing on the wet, wet roads like a big humming whale on the ocean, gliding, waiting, enjoying the weather into the fall. It lasted all morning long. No, not a moment going wrong. It's so nice to be completely soaked. And when the sun came out, it was a pure, clean pleasure to return to the warm sun. Sometimes we need contrast to make us feel at home, cozy, and satisfied. Death and dying. Remember November? It rhymes with meander and with murder and eager. No, not eagle or spiegel. It is the month for us to be somber, morose, like a black rose, I suppose. Most deaths are in November. All Saints' Day and All Souls' Day, our special day for all of us. Memorial Day, Veterans Day, honor the dead in their graves, where graveyards are revisited, the home of the death march, as time marches on and on and on, the home of enormous wealth, bodies and organs at rest with the best, our last earthly home. Once acquired, never moved. Groovy, groovy, isn't it? Oh, to be morose as a black rose, the scent of fall in the air. We stare at the tombstone and remember the dead. May they rest in peace. May they be at ease. No need to squeeze. There is room for everybody. Remember when? Time well spent. Remember November. Arched in tombstones. Bones in the gravy of time. Each stone a glowing ember of a life that once was. Someone cared for each one. The trees are bare, the leaves have died, the cold has come. Darkness is blitzing us as the cold goes up our noses. Emotions with roses at the funeral pyre. A gathering of friends in sorrow, sometimes topped with the cream of snow. The time is here for endless tomorrows. Enjoy the month of November.
The next person coming up actually hails from the group that I call Team Wentworth. Gloria Monahan, who is a, no, is it Wentworth, right?
Yes.
Yes, Wentworth, a local college, has a certain poet, instructor, and past Stone Soup feature, Gloria Monahan. Ask her about her book from Fishing Line Press the next time she's here, which I hope is very soon. She has a very nice habit of bringing her classes here to show them the ropes of poetry and what it's about and and the various things it can be, which Stone Soup does pretty well, I think. And the people who have been coming, we've had people submit us, I think it was after the Stanley Cup game, we actually had people submit Stanley Cup haikus, because right after the open mic, that's where a bunch of them went down the field to watch it. But we asked you guys send us a haiku afterwards. But in addition to gems like that, we have this person who's starting to come now on at least a semi-regular basis, and we're very glad for that. Let's welcome up Cody Smith.
How's everybody doing today? I wish I was here on a semi-regular basis, but I actually just came to a horrifying conclusion as I was coming here, and that is that it has been just a few months shy of an entire year since I last read here.
I could have sworn it was sooner than that.
Doesn't feel like it, but so I'll have to try to get back. It's going to be a New Year's resolution. I'd like to first extend a thank you to Chad for his support of the newly developing Wentworth Poetry Group. I know there's lots of talent on campus, and I just can't help it. You need to find it just to, get it started.
My dad's alumni.
So, as usual, I like to start off with a poet much better than I, just in case the quality of my own poetry is not up to par. He's one of my all-time favorites, and his name is John Berryman. Dream Song 1. Huffy Henry hid the day. Unappeasable, Henry sulked. I see his point, trying to put things over. It was the thought that they thought they could do it made Henry wicked in a way. But he should have come out and talked. All the world like a woolen lover once did seem on Henry's side, then came departure. Thereafter nothing fell out as it might or ought. I don't see how Henry, pried open for all the world to see, survived. What he has now to say is a long wonder the world can bear and be. Once in a sycamore I was glad, all at the top, and I sang. Hard on the land wears the strong sea, and empty grows every bed. This next poem I wrote was an original piece. It's I consider it a work in progress. It's dedicated to my uncle, who a few years ago around this time took his life. He was a member of the Marine Corps, a Vietnam veteran, and I can't help but feel with the coming of the cold weather and the dismalness that writing a poem about what he suffered from, which was a terrible depression, would be only appropriate. I call it, for now, Gray. I awoke one morning to find the world had turned gray. I suppose it had been happening for a while now, but it was slow and prolonged, like a flower growing. No less subtle, but not so beautiful. They had always talked about it in elementary school, that it was all just wavelengths and lights. But most of us simply denied that the world could be without color, without that which distinguishes us, without that which we find so much beauty. Nothing had really changed, just became less vibrant. No longer did the clock's green, piercing light shoot across the black room, and my yellow cutting tools and red package of cigarettes blended in with the mahogany desk. And all the paintings in the museum seemed to sag with melancholy. I suppose old photographs looked the same, sharp eyes still full of life, their suits and peacoats just as elegant. It was they who defined themselves, not that aesthetic spectrum of vitality we so relied on. But most of them were living in a gray world too. Even the most simplistic things grew sharp, all the details enhanced, making them appear complex and dull, like machinery. No life or brilliance, not anymore. But there was admittedly some guilt. I could see everything I had always seen, maybe even more now. It was not as if I was blind, just tormented by what I knew was once there, like watching the rain fall outside the window. Sometimes it's better to just go to sleep.
Thank you, Cody. Not too many people even dare to try and pick up Berryman. He's a tough customer.
He's my number one favorite.
Oh. Bring him as much as you want. One of my favorite lines, like, there ought to be a law against Henry. Mr. Bones, there is. He's a little more jovial when he writes it, when he reads it, if you ever caught him doing an audio.
Oh yeah, there's not too many of them.
Up next, this person who hails all the way from the Salem area, North Shore. And she, along with other dignitaries, new Stone Soup dignitaries, or I should say semi-regular readers here, help run the Zigzag Poetry Series, which starts every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. Although I don't know if the 23rd is going to have any problems. Are you still going to have one?
Yeah, we're looking for another venue just for that one day.
Okay, I'll post the information on Stone Soup for those who are interested. It's a venue with a great vibe, and the North Shore is a really good source for poetry and storytelling and the spoken arts and spoken word arts in general. If you haven't gone to any at least a half dozen easy venues on a regular weekly basis, you're missing out on a lot. Let's welcome up MP Carver.
Actually, all the credit for the zigzag folios goes to Scott and Clay. I just hang around. All right.
You need roadies. You have to have every poetry reading series has to have roadies. So.
All right. Well, I'm proud to be a roadie then.
There you go.
There's the gas.
All right. This poem's called Absence, and it's by Jeffrey McDaniel.
Oh, that's great.
On the scales of desire, your absence weighs more than someone else's presence. So I say no thanks to the woman who throws her girl at my feet as I drop a postcard in the mailbox and watch it throb like a blue heart in the dark. Your eyes are so green. One of your parents must be part traffic light. We're both self-centered, but the world revolves around us at the same speed. Last night I tossed and turned inside a thundercloud. This morning my sheets were covered in pollen. I remember the long division of Saturday's pomegranate, 1,000 nebulae in your hair, as soldiers marched by, dragging big army bags filled with water balloons, and we passed a lit match, back and forth between our lips, under an oak tree I had absolutely nothing to do with. And this one's called Questions for Godzilla by Paul Guest. Questions for Godzilla. What of the atom-split heart we made for you in the godly flashbang wrath, the anguished song, the clawed gate, the zipper by which one of us slips into and puts you on? Your deads we dangle like a carrot, your stunted sun mewling always, your ragged arch foes, your bed in rock, in magma, in thick sea slime, our fascination still, our morbid heart, our scattering like leaves, our blood that once was horrible, a technicolor ichor. What of the glowing spine? What of the toy stings of stock footage flames? What of the jets you swatted dead from the air with unmistakable joy? You of the plastic leather, pebbled pleistocene flesh. You of the palsied fury. You of the put upon by dissemblers and disturbers, you. What of the life burned so cheaply into celluloid we are charmed? What of autumn? What of the earth we took you from? What of the sky's wounded throb, the sallow child darkened in your shadow? What of those 1,000 fates, cut in coiling ribbons to the floor? What of the heaven they hoped on, that glowed like your breath, that sang only before you came, that fell quiet like a feather? What of the shouted orders, the dread retreat, the fall of a world built to scale? What is pain to you? And I'll just do one more. Let's see, I'll do one of mine. I think I've read this one here before. It's called Spontaneous Generations. Instantaneous birth, fueled, funded by maternal plasticity and genetic drift, easy inebriation. Population transmutations, prototypes of Earth, spontaneous generations, factoring in lingering deaths. This is no instance of imagism, fire, refuted evolution, the cult of computations. It stays.
And once again, whether you're a poetry host or a roadie, you will have enthusiasm for the Zigzag Poetry Open Mic in a Pig's Eye Saloon. Is it called In a Pig's Eye Saloon or
Pig's Eye, yeah, restaurant, bar,
In a Pig's Eye. Just look up In a Pig's Eye Salem. Very easy to get to even via public transportation. So hopefully, as my job quiets down in the wintertime, I'll definitely make it there once. And they're also celebrating the release of their Zigzag Folios. Volume 2, which will hopefully be happening soon. I was honored to have some work accepted in there, so I thank them for that and to helping to keep the poetry scene alive and reminding people that poetry isn't just in the streets of Cambridge and Boston. So that's always a nice reminder for us. So seriously, the best shit's here. So anyway, I'm messing. I am messing. And speaking of new voices, this is someone who, if she had been here before in a week I wasn't here, I apologize, but I think this is a debut, so let's give it up for Mary, if I heard, Honecker? Honecker, Mary Honecker.
Hello, I'm going to do all original poetry. So. Good. This first one's called Wolf. It took me a while to grasp what was happening. At first, tenebrous sense of overarching trees, something soft brushing across my face, motion, drumbeat patter over dried leaves. Then one night as I swept, spirit-like, over the too close earth, I realized how low the dark shapes of plant, of briar, of branch above my path. I wondered how I could pass so quickly through the thick vegetation. I looked down to see two fast, gray-furred feet running beneath my gray-furred snout. Later, I tried to bring back the dream. Guess it was the breeze of my bedside fan touching my cheek, stirring the humid air in my resting mind. I placed it near my pillow, my eager face full into its chilly breath, and slept the sleep of anticipation. Under some moons, the wolf returned. I learned to discern the spectral howls of companions close, heard their furred bodies rustling the brush, knew something afraid fled ahead of us, knew to what end we were bounding. Why me, loner, a wolf, when they cascade down nighttime mountainsides and rivers of glowing eyes and shocks of ghostly coats, as if one mind controlled their several limbs? Why me, timid and shy? What fang hides in my tiny voice? What snarl behind my meekness? I don't know why I should be a wolf. Yet outside the door the she-wolf breathes, white mist seeping from between her teeth. This one's called Goddess. I go to the willows to look for her again. It's no good. The sky is clear from blue rim to blue rim, the sea, a plain-spoken sentence. It was fall, I think, when I sensed her. Clouds like new laundered linens lay folded low over the sky in reams of gray and white. The air itself was gray, thick, the ocean so cold and steely, you'd swear if you'd slap it, it would thrum. And I wish I could sing her as Apuleius did, braying in awe and dismay on some distant Mediterranean shore, when she rose from the foamy waves, crowned in barnacles and splendor, and her name was many names in one name. But no one can force such a vision. Instead, I sensed her, a suggestion of mist, a wisp, somehow feminine, unseen on the salt breeze, uncanny, large nearness close by on the dark rocks with their streaming seaweed locks. I thought to call her Aphrodite, remembering that briny birth, but held back the words, knowing them too small. Wondered for a brief breath why she was here, so far from her native Achaean shores. And then the presence was gone. I wanted to sing, but what words for such a thing when I am the daughter of a Christian? The world is full of too many feral powers of the air and sea. Yet I can picture her in her gauzy gown of jellyfish flesh, the shining shell of some bowl-like wisdom in which one could cup a world, lifted up in her still dripping hand, the terror of her feet on the sand. This last one's called Worship of Chocolates. I met a gay man at the gallery, a roundish man, stout, who wore his silken shirt half undone to show tight sprung chest curls. Jolly as sunlight in the commons, brooding through the thick trunk trees. He sat knees splayed, hand on meaty thigh, and entertained my friend and I for hours. He sang opera and recited the poem he wrote for his love in the days when they first met, laughed ringingly and kissed my hand when I recited the only thing I remembered of my own poor verse. He recalled the Sistine Chapel, where left alone as a child he sang aloud for hours under the sacred dome. Told us he liked to buy a box of chocolate and stroll down the center of the street eating, shameless. He declared everything delicious, while I, close to tears, realized for perhaps the first time how bitter my life, what pain, what struggle. Now the sun sets over the inlet in the green-bedecked summer. Dark blue clouds, satin soft and sapphire deep, lay asleep in a saffron blaze of sky, crowned now by lavender clouds, and above them the fresh, deep well of night, draught of coming cool. And like chocolates eaten on the sidewalk outside the store, and extravagance more. The whole palette in reverse below on the receding tide. God did not make this for me, to bow my head and return to sudsing the dishes. What scents are the pink roses unfolding in creamy layers of subtlest shade, their precious yet to open buds, and the gifts of their faces strewn over the mud. But to say, this is not a grim test, pass or fail, sorrows only in this life are dark veil, so why do I expect it so? Why trudging, struggling, travail? Love the one who brings the verses and the songs in painted vaults. Step close to the painting. Eat the chocolates while standing in the street, right out of the box. Forget the funny way people look at you. Take him up and kiss him, the one you love. There won't be another Sunday such as this one, and this is worship true.
Thank you so much, Mary. Hope you come back. I was mentioning publications. I've been mentioning scattering of publications all night. I mentioned Jason Wright's Oddball magazine. Actually, Bill, let's turn the man to the camera with the green hat so we can applaud him proper. He is our feature tonight. We just keep on applauding because it'll inspire you to get the DVD. Anyway, he'll be performing tonight. He has he publishes Oddball online, Oddball magazine, and there's links to it on the Stone Soup Facebook page, on the stonesoup.poetry.blogspot. We'll probably do another one for good measure, and I'll probably even post it permanently on my website. I've already mentioned Zigzag Folios, and Clay Venture has been nice enough to make sure that Stone Soup gets the opportunity to submit last time. But there's also some information that I just received last week, the Porter Gulch Review. Some of you might remember David Sullivan from the summer, West Coast poet who came to promote his book of real and imagined Iraqi war correspondence. He teaches at Cabrillo College. And the Porter Gulch Review is just one of many things that he is active in. And he advises it. It is run by students and a couple of faculty, and they extend the invitation not just to me but to Stone Soup people to submit. It's still a process, but he wanted to make sure that I spread the word. He obviously heard Stone Soup. He wouldn't be passing this on if he didn't know what he liked here. So I'll be posting that information via the Yahoo group, via the Facebook group. So hopefully everyone will have a chance to submit. The deadline is December 1st, so you have a little time, but sooner the better I find in these situations. And when there's more, and there's also a couple of contests getting closer towards their deadline. One that's sponsored by Cape Cod Radio. So I'll be reposting that information soon enough. For more information, you should definitely look up. There's definitely new journals, new publications coming up. Amethyst Arsenic is accepting until November. That is Samantha Malowski's vehicle. Actually founded less than 2 years ago, and has had a variety of people here. A lot of past Stone Soup performers like Valerie Loveland, Michael and Lucy Monroe, Tony Brown, and a host of others. So they'd be looking for your work as well. Let's get to the next person on the open mic, a regular here. It is Eric Nelson. Give him a hand.
Here's one of my older poems. Under my toe, in front of the accelerator pedal, there's an old newspaper with an article about the fall of the Berlin Wall. And I'm taking my car to have its oil changed at the Quick Oil Change place, which is next to the new shopping center, which is next to the old shopping center at the edge of town. I'm filling out the form, but I say it's a 1970 Plymouth Valiant. That car is older than I am, says the girl behind the counter. I'm waiting in the waiting room, and next to the pot of free coffee that's been on the burner too long, there's a stack of books for sale. Multiple copies of the same book. And it's called Chronicle of the 20th Century, even though the 20th century isn't over yet. And it's marked down. And I asked myself, how could there be a book called Chronicle of the 20th Century if the 20th century isn't over yet? Then I remembered. There was somebody in the news who said that this was the end of history. Maybe that's the reason why. Finally, the car is ready. I put my coffee cup into the free letter bag they hung on the knob of the radio that doesn't work, and I put my credit card and receipt in there too. I start the car using the broken key. It still works because the other half of the key is still in the lock. And maybe they're burying the century before it's dead, discounting it. But a 1970 Plymouth Valiant keeps on going forever, even though the odometer turned over a long time ago. Thanks very much.
Up next, on the subject of publications, Fox Chase Review in Philadelphia, run by G. Emil Ruder and his soon-to-be wife, I hope, Diane, whose son's Guillermetti, I believe. I'm totally mispronouncing and butchering that last name. But G and Diane were past features this summer, and the Fox Chase Review is by invite only. I've been invited, I think, once, maybe twice. Other people from Boston, I think like Tim Gager, Doug Holder, Jack Powers was published shortly before he passed away. They came to love Stone Soup a lot and really appreciated what we did, and met Jack Powers in around 2005 or 2006. So they really appreciate what we do up here. We've had some of our Boston poets go down there to feature. We try and get as many of them up here. It's kind of a little unofficial exchange program. But the Fox Chase Review specifically asked me to be the agent/middleman for this next person coming up. They want to feature his work for the winter issue, and hopefully that's going to be a reality. Let's all rise for the man I call the Open Micer's Open Micer, Sir Walter Howard.
Yeah.
In order to date you, I want to ask you if you remember B.O. Plenty.
What?
You don't remember B.O. Plenty. His wife was Grapple Gertie. Do you remember her? This is early TV, I realize.
Yeah.
Some of you weren't born
I
at
remember.
that time. Okay, and what was the name of their daughter? Grapple Gertie. B.O. Plenty. Bapple Plenty.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
Okay.
Having played that egg,
Someone like their alliteration a lot on TV.
having played that egg, we'll go on to a more serious matter.
Yes.
One of the great poets of our time was Garcia Lorca, and one of his immortal poems is entitled The Sila of the Dark Day. I want to sleep the dream of the apples, to withdraw from the tumult of cemeteries. I want no sleep. I want to sleep. The dream of that child who wanted to cut his heart on the high seas. I don't want to hear again that the dead do not lose their blood, that the putrid mouth goes on asking for water. I don't want to learn of the torches of the grass, nor of the moon with a serpent's mouth that labours before dawn. I want to sleep a while, a minute, a century. But all must know that I have not died, that there is a stable of gold in my lips, that I am the small friend of the west wind, that I am the immense shadow of my tears. Cover me at dawn with a veil, because dawn will throw fistfuls of ants at me, and wet with hard water my shoes, so that the pincers of the scorpion slide. For I want to sleep the dream of the apples, to learn a lament that will cleanse me of the earth. For I want to live with that dark child who wanted to cut his heart on the high seas. 1,000 years ago, how like the 40s, I was in a junior achievement radio club. Under junior achievement was a thing to get teeny boppers to do other than sitting around scratching their rear ends. one of which was to go on WBET, and if you know Brockton, the Fuller Art Museum, they were the owners of the enterprise at that time. Very strange people in judgment, but I was convinced that everybody in Brockton, and possibly myself, were on the weird side.
Amen.
Brockton is, all I'll say is, I feel a definite nostalgia for Brockton. It was my cradle. My mother used to say, it's a dirty bird that messes in his own nest. I said, well, hell with that, I'll go ahead and mess as much as I damn well please. But I was in Brockton yesterday on the way to the Plymouth venue, which, if you have a chance to go to them, it's, they're given at the Art Association, and they usually have about 50 people, and it's a lot of fun. Okay. No, when I went into all that, well, pious, of course, debatably pious baloney slices to get to the point that there is a silent language that you use on the radio when you have to give a message to somebody, but you can't say it verbally because it would upset whatever the program was. But to stretch out whatever it was that you were doing, the control room guy, engineer, would go like this, and stretch it out, stretch it out. So, Buster Brown.
You got one more?
Oh, just one? Oh. Okay,
Okay, two.
You forgot.
No,
Jason Wright doesn't- if Jason Wright doesn't mind.
You spoke the truth,
Two is
and
fine.
I always bow to the truth.
Two is fine.
Poetry is truth surrounded by beauty.
Remember, he's Sir Walter.
And Bull.
Here at the clearing, this was in South Vermont. A friend of mine was a parson there, and it was Vermont, I mean, really countrified and beautiful. And we were returning to South Grafton, and at a break in the wall before this beautiful pasture, which was moon-bathed, stood a fawn, and she was magnificent. I mean, well, here's the fawn, the deer at the clearing. It stood the fear-fraught thing and pierced the wood again. The gentle forms of this unchosen frame meet a startling moment whence they die. Thank you very much. Get out here. All I need to do is step over the cord. That would really be it.
As you can tell, I've been doing my best to catch up with features at Stone Soup. I appreciate Jason for saying yes on such short notice. I mean, for some reason, I seem to have more of a talent these last couple of weeks of booking people way ahead of schedule than I am on schedule. CC Ashagar is going to be closing out the month of October, which I'm looking forward to. Some prospective features that have come up for November include, two definite features include Ryan Rat Travis, who celebrates his 25th anniversary. Actually, his 25th, this past September marked the 25th year he had been performing at Stone Soup, both as an open micer and as an occasional feature. And he has a long history with Stone Soup and has featured it, whether he's out somewhere else doing his own work, or if he's doing local public access with Salem, which he did for a couple of years. So definitely an interesting character and not to be missed. Douglas Bishop is going to be performing on the week of November 12th. Douglas Bishop is a longtime person involved with the Cantab, with the Squaw Coffee House, with the Walden Pond Poetry Series. He'll be with a musical accompaniment, and that'll be hosted by Michael F. Gill. And something else I hope happens for the end of November. I just recently, I won't say the name yet, but one or two of you might know what I speak of. There is, especially if you're in the North Shore area, but I recently this weekend with Ian Thal went to an Albanian Writers Festival. And this was held in Worcester, and where there is a very large population, actually a larger population of Albanians are in Worcester than there are in Boston. Like, I think there's only about 10,000 here, there's 20,000 or a little more in, I see whispering in the back, I know what you're saying, but yes, you're right. But, and about 20,000 or more in Worcester alone, so it was the perfect setting for this, and the reason I was there, and Ian was there, was that we were published in an Albanian bilingual anthology called Sounds of Wind, New American Voices. Lediana Stilio, a past Stone Sip open micer here, and hopefully a future feature when she stops traveling so much. She's actually reading her work in Paris this week. So yeah, very well renowned outside of here. Here she works for the State Department. You know, so you talk about the way poetry works here versus the rest of the world, I'll tell you. But Sounds of Wind is an anthology that as far as the art of translation, learning English and being bilingual,